Good evening and welcome back. Tonight we are going somewhere wide and white and very quiet. And once we are there, we are going to do almost nothing at all on purpose all night long. It is a winter night in the 1840s on the northern Great Plains of North America, and we are in a winter camp of the Lakota people, in a sheltered river valley where the cottonwoods stand bare against the snow. This is a real place and a real way of living, kept by real people, and their descendants are alive today and remember it well. So we will walk in softly as guests. No legends tonight, no speeches, none of the things the movies invented, just the actual quiet skill of a winter night, a warm lodge, a family, a fire that someone tends, horses shifting in the dark under the trees, and snow going on forever under the stars. Before we settle in, the small housekeeping quickly. If these long, quiet nights help you sleep, subscribing is the easiest way to keep them coming, and it genuinely helps. The player will hold your place if you drift off, and you can find your way back tomorrow. That is everything. The business of the day is now officially over. Here is the road ahead, so your mind can stop holding a map. We will come down into the valley at dusk and find the camp with its smoke standing in the cold. We will step inside one lodge and learn it slowly. The fire, the beds, the good order of it. There will be supper and mending and small crafts by firelight. There will be stories, because winter is the storytelling season here, and songs sung low. We will look in on the horses, and the dogs and the frozen creek, and the enormous starry sky. And then the camp will sleep, and we will keep it company, hour by gentle hour, all the way to the edge of morning. Nothing will go wrong tonight. Nothing will hurry. Nobody in this valley is in any danger, and neither are you. And as always, the permission. You are not required to follow. You are not required to remember. The words will go on without you, at the same unhurried walk. And if you slide away somewhere between the fire and the stars, that is not an interruption of tonight's program. That is the program. Sleep is the point. Everything else is scenery. So, let your shoulders down. Let the bed hold you. It is late afternoon on the plains. The light is going amber, and below us, in the bend of a frozen river, a circle of lodges is sending up its smoke. Let's go down. The plains in winter are an ocean that has stopped moving. From the low ridge where we stand, the snow runs unbroken to every horizon, combed by the wind into long frozen swells, glowing faintly rose and violet as the sun goes down behind cloud the color of dove feathers. The cold is large and clean. The silence is larger, and the only softness in all that white distance is below us, in the wide bend of the river, where the winter camp sits among the bare cottonwoods like a handful of embers in a gray hearth. The camp was placed the way winter camps are always placed, which is to say perfectly, by people who have been choosing winter ground on these plains for a very long time. Down out of the wind, first of all, the valley is a trench of shelter, and the river bluffs and the cottonwood groves break the north wind so thoroughly that the camp feels a different climate from the ridge, calmer, kinder, whole degrees warmer, wood close at hand, the dead limbs of the cottonwoods and the driftwood of the floods, water under the ice, grass in the bottoms, and bark for the horses when the grass is buried, everything a winter needs, gathered into one bend of one river, read off the land like a list. There are perhaps a dozen lodges, set among the trees in a loose broken circle, the great camp circle of summer relaxed for winter into something more like a neighborhood, each lodge tucked where the shelter is best. They are tall cones of hide, golden brown, weathered. Each one seamed and smoke darkened at the crown, and each one breathes a thin line of smoke, a dozen gray threads rising through the still air, straight as lodge poles, up past the bluffs and into the enormous sky. Between the lodges, the evening business is finishing. A woman carries an armload of wood. Two boys drive a last string of horses down toward the trees. A dog trots a wide inspecting circle and pronounces the evening in order. Voices come up to us small and clear in the cold, unhurried, the sound of a village closing its day. Smell the evening as we come down the bluff trail. Wood smoke first, sweet cottonwood smoke, the smell of the whole winter plains, then snow and river ice and horses. And as we come in among the lodges, the good smell of supper, meat and broth riding the smoke out of every crown. The light is nearly gone now. The snow has turned blue. One by one, the lodges are beginning to glow from inside, lit up by their fires like great lanterns set down among the trees. Gold seems shining, shadows moving on the hide walls, a circle of warm cones burning softly against the coming dark. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm. That is the refrain of this valley, and you will hear it again tonight, the way you hear a drum under a song. Say it once and let it settle. One lodge there at the edge of the trees is ours for the night. Its door faces east, away from the wind, toward tomorrow's sunrise. The cover is about to drop over the evening. Let's go in. Stop a moment at the door and look up, because from here the lodge shows you what it is. And what it is one of the best shelters human beings have ever devised. It is a cone, roughly 4 strides across at the floor, made of long, slender pines cut in the hills and carried here on horse-drawn travois. The poles stand in a careful spiral, crossed and bound near the top, their tips spread against the sky like a bundle of enormous quills. Over them is stretched the cover, buffalo hides tanned and sewn into one great fitted sheet, wrapped around the cone, and pinned up the front with a ladder of wooden pins. At the crown, where the poles meet, 2 hide flaps stand open like wings, the smoke flaps, and they are the lodge's chimney and its weather sense both, trimmed through the day by 2 outside poles, to draw the smoke up sweet no matter where the wind sits. The whole thing can rise in an hour and come down in less, and everything about it is engineered, truly engineered for this country. The cone sheds the wind, every direction of it having no flat face to strike. It sheds snow. It stands lightly and holds hard, and it is not symmetrical, not quite. The back is steeper, the front longer, the whole cone leaned just slightly back into the prevailing weather, braced like a standing person, and that tilt also sets the smoke hole off-center, directly over where the fire actually burns. There is nothing accidental anywhere on it. In winter, it is dressed for the season. Inside, hidden from us yet, a lining of hides is tied around the wall, floor to shoulder height, and the space between lining and cover works the way a coat over a shirt works, trapping still air, killing drafts. Cold air that slips under the cover's edge rises in that gap and feeds the fire's draw instead of the sleepers' backs. Outside, snow is banked around the base, sealing the skirt. A hide hangs over the low east-facing door. The lodge wears the winter the way its owners do, in layers, with the wind understood and outwitted. And it is somebody's work of art, this particular lodge. The cover was tanned hide by hide, softened over weeks, cut and fitted and sewn by the woman of this household, and the women of her family working together, a major undertaking done well, done proudly. It is her lodge, by make and by custom hers outright. The household lives in her house. Along the cover's lower band, painted earth red, runs a border of her own design, and the door hide is worked with quills in bands of red and yellow. In the last light, with the fire glowing through the seams, the whole cone looks like what it is, a made thing, loved and maintained, the biggest and best possession of a family that measures wealth partly in exactly this. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the lodge stands over its people like a good coat over a shoulder, tilted into the wind, doing engineering all night without a sound. You come into a Lakota lodge the way you come into any well-run house on earth, which is to say, there is a right way, and it is easy, and it makes everything pleasant, and everyone inside learned it so young they cannot remember learning it. Stoop under the door, hide into the amber. The door is low on purpose, a bow to the house, and it faces east on purpose, sunrise ward wind averse. Inside, straighten up slowly and let the warmth come to you. It comes all at once. Wood smoke and hide and sweetgrass and supper, the packed earth floor spread with robes, the fire standing at the middle of everything, small and steady, the one bright thing, with its light climbing the poles into the smoke-dark crown. Now the manners, learned in one breath, passing between a seated person, and the fire is the thing one does not do. So you circle behind always, sunwise as it happens, and the circling gives the room its gentle traffic pattern, everyone flowing one way around the wheel of the floor. The back of the lodge, opposite the door, is the place of honor, where the man of the house sits and guests of standing are seated. The woman's place is by the door, at the household's helm, nearest the wood and the water and the work, which tells you honestly where the running of this world resides. Each person has their place along the wall, their robe, their backrest. A lodge is small and a winter is long, and the places are what make the small round room into a set of rooms, invisible walls, entirely real, entirely respected. The family is settling into those places, now as the evening closes. The grandmother nearest the fire on the south side, her blanket about her, her work bag at her knee. The man of the house at the back, half reclined against his backrest like a senator at ease. The mother at her door-side station, among the kettles and the parfleche cases. Children stacked loosely along the north wall in the robes, in the low country of the lodge where children and dogs belong and thrive. And one place empty tonight, its robe folded, its backrest idle, because the eldest son is out with the horse herd until the second watch, and his supper sits covered by the fire, waiting, which is its own kind of welcome home. Sit then. Guests sit where they are put, and we are put in a good spot, south side, mid-wall, fire-warm out of the traffic. A robe is turned fur up for us. From here the whole lodge is visible. The fire, the faces, the door, the crown of poles overhead where the smoke slides out into the night. The wind moves the door hide once, softly, like a hand testing and gives up. Inside, nobody even looks. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and you are inside now, seated, warm, counted among the company, and the night can begin. At the center of the floor, in a shallow ring scraped in the earth, the household fire is doing its steady work, and it is worth knowing this fire properly, because everything else tonight happens in its light. It is a small fire that surprises people from colder-built worlds who expect a winter blaze, but the lodge is a cone of trapped warm air, and the lining seals it, and the bodies inside heat it, and so the fire's job is not fury but steadiness. A modest tidy blaze the size of two spread hands, kept exact all evening by the people around it. Small fire, close family. It is a proverb in more than one plains language, and it is also simply the truth of the physics. The wood is cottonwood mostly, the tree of the river bottoms, gathered dead and down through the autumn, and stacked by the door in a woodpile that is one of the season's quiet forms of wealth. Cottonwood burns mild and friendly, without spite, few sparks, a sweet light smoke, and its coals are long and even. Ash and box elder join it, and on the coals now and then a piece of driftwood, river-cured, burning with a little extra music. The mother feeds the fire from her place by the door the way a cook feeds a stove. A stick at the right moment, a nudge of the coals, thinking about it not at all and never getting it wrong. Above, the smoke rises through the cone and finds the crown, and the smoke flaps have already been set for the night's weather, their outside poles planted just so, quartering the flaps away from the light north drift. The draw is sweet. The smoke goes up like a drawn thread. 50 generations of practice are in that sweetness, and every person in this lodge can read the flaps set from the fire's behavior without going out of doors, the way a sailor reads sail trim from the deck. Around the fire ring, at a respectful few inches, stands the evening's infrastructure. The iron trade kettle, black and valued, simmering the supper, horn spoons in their bag, the stone-headed maul for cracking marrow bones, a forked stick for managing coals, and planted upright by the woodpile, the fire's own tools, which are the mother's tools, this being like the lodge itself, her department, her hearth, the precise center of her considerable domain. Watch the fire a while, the way everyone here watches it, half-lidded between other things. It is the lodge's clock, its lamp, its stove, its theater, and its elder statesman. Its light climbs the 17 poles and knits them into a golden vault. Its small sounds, tick and shift and sigh, are the room's resting heartbeat. Its warmth reaches every wall of the cone equally, being at the center of a circle, which is one more thing the shape gets exactly right. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and at the middle of the lodge the small fire burns like a kept promise, no bigger than it must be, no smaller than it should be, exactly, contentedly enough. Since we are guests in her house, we should properly meet the woman of the lodge, and to meet her is to understand how this world actually runs. She is in her 40s, broad-handed, quick-eyed, wrapped in a good blanket, and she is at this moment doing 4 things at once, without appearing to do any of them. The supper is at her left, the fire before her, a moccasin-kneading thread is in her lap, and the whole traffic of the lodge is under her general supervision. Children, dogs, guests, husband, all of it managed with an economy of glances that any commander would envy. The lodge is hers, and that is not a courtesy. It is law and economy together. She made it, she and her mother and sisters and cousins, hide by hide. She owns it with its furnishings, its robes, its kettles, its parfleche cases, the whole rolling estate of the household. If it moves, she directs the packing of it. Where it stands, she chose the ground. The man of the house, whose work is the hunt and the herd and the wide, dangerous outside, walks into her jurisdiction every time he stoops through the door, and knows it, and is glad of it, the way a ship's captain is glad to come home to a harbor run by someone competent. Her day has been full since before light, and the evidence of it surrounds you. The water was hauled up through a cut in the river ice. The wood was gathered and stacked. The meat now simmering was cut from the stores she manages. Dried buffalo from the autumn hunts, kept in painted rawhide cases she made and filled and nosed to the pound. The children wear moccasins she sewed. With winter liners of buffalo wool she gathered and worked. The robes everyone will sleep in tonight pass through her hands in the tanning. Hours and hours of scraping and softening a piece. Each one, practically everything in this warm circle that can be touched, was made or finished or maintained by her and the women of this camp, and all of them know it, and none of them mention it in the way of competence everywhere. Just now she looks up from the moccasin, listens past the fire for half a second, to the wind, to the horses, to a child's cough 2 robes away that has decided to be nothing, and goes back to her needle. That listening look is the real portrait of her. The lodge sleeps safe inside her attention, the way the camp sleeps safe inside the valley. Her mother by the fire threads an awl with sinew and mutters that the light was better when she was young. Her youngest is asleep already against her knee, thumb in mouth, entirely certain of the world, and she sits at the center of what she has made, mending it, feeding it, listening to it breathe. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and it does both in this lodge largely because of her. Supper now, because the kettle has been making its argument for an hour, and has finally won. The trade kettle comes off its hook and the bowls come out. Horn bowls and wooden bowls, each person's own. Tonight it is a stew of dried buffalo meat, simmered long and slow until the dry sheets have gone silken, and the broth has gone deep, thickened with pounded prairie turnip. The good white root the women dug and braided and dried in the summer, and brightened with a handful of dried berries. It is rich, plain, hot food, the exact food this climate votes for, and there is enough, which is the whole quiet triumph of a well-run winter. The serving has an order, and the order has a meaning. The elders first, always, grandmother's bowl filled and carried to her hands, then the man of the house, then the guests, ourselves included. A full bowl, no ceremony made of it, which is itself the courtesy. Then the children, oldest to youngest. Then the mother serves herself last from her place by the door, having fed her whole world first, as she does every night, as her mother did. Alongside the stew, there is dried meat crisped briefly over the coals till its edges curl. And there is wasna, the travel food, the treasure food. Dried meat pounded fine with rendered fat and dried chokecherries and packed rich. A little goes to each child. It is dense as fruit cake, and loved the way your world loves chocolate, and a small knob of it, given for no reason on an ordinary night, is the kind of thing a person remembers about their childhood 60 winters later. And there is marrow, a femur saved from the autumn, set at the coals, turned again, cracked with 2 expert taps of the stone maul, and the warm marrow shared down the ring on the blade of a knife, elders first, littlest last and largest. And if you have been with us on other nights, in other centuries, on other continents, you will recognize this exact small ceremony: tap, crack, share, joy. Some things human beings simply keep. Listen to the meal, the horn spoons on the bowls, the fire under the voices, the father telling something slow and half-smiled to the grandmother, who has heard it before and eats on contentedly, a child negotiating, with great seriousness, the trade of crisped meat for wasna, and being outmaneuvered by a sibling as children have been outmaneuvered by siblings in every lodging of our species. The dog by the door, achieving by pure patience a bone she was never promised. Nobody hurries. The night is long, and the kettle is not going anywhere. The bowls are wiped clean at the end, the kettle covered, a portion set by the fire under a bowl for the sun out with the horses. The fire gets a stick. The evening leans back. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm. And inside the lodge everyone is now warm from both directions, which, as we have said before in other winters, is the only true definition of supper. Before the night closes over the camp, we should go see to the horses, because half the wealth and most of the future of this family is standing out there in the cottonwoods, breathing steam. Come out through the door, hide into the blue. The cold catches at the throat first, then the stars catch the eye, and the trade feels fair. Down through the trees, where the snow is trodden and dunged and comfortable, the camp's herd is settling for the night. 40, 50 horses, the family's herds loosely mingled, drifted into the best shelter under the bluff. They are small, tough prairie horses, shaggy as bears in their winter coats, and they stand in twos and threes, nose to tail, dozing, shifting, pulling at the cottonwood bark that is their winter bread. That bark is the valley's other harvest. When the grass lies under too much snow, the people fell young cottonwoods and the horses strip the sweet inner bark, and boys drag the branches to the herd through the short afternoons. It is real fodder, richer than you would guess. The sound of the herd at bark, a soft, industrious gnawing and rustling all through the grove, is the sound of a plains winter working correctly, and it goes on under the stars like quiet mill work. The eldest son of our lodge is here, on the first watch, a young man of 16 wrapped to the eyes in a buffalo robe, moving slow among the animals with a rawhide rope over his shoulder. He is counting without counting, the way herdsmen do, reading legs and breath and mood, and the horses move around him like weather around a hill, familiar, unbothered. His own best horse, a dun mare with a smoke-dark mane, lifts her head and finds him across the grove, and he stops by her a while. And what passes between a 16-year-old and his good horse on a starry night is roughly the same on every continent, and in every century where the two of them have stood together, which is many. Horses came to this people only a few generations back, ridden north along the trade trails, and yet already the whole shape of life has folded around them. The hunts, the moving of camps, the measure of generosity, the dreams of boys. The herd is wealth, but it is wealth that breathes and must be watered at the ice cut and defended from the cold, wealth you get up in the night for. Later, past the middle of the night, a younger man from another lodge will relieve the watch, and the sun will come in at last to his covered bowl and his robe. The watch is never empty. It is one of the camp's constant small offices, like the fire, like the water hole. Somebody is always awake near the horses. All winter, every winter, we leave him to it, with the herd chewing its bark around him and the stars thickening overhead. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm. And down in the trees the other half of the family, the four-footed half, settles nose to tail into the long cold night with a boy standing guard. Between the lodges, in the trodden snow, the camp's dogs are making their final arrangements for the night, and no honest account of this place could leave them out, because the dogs were here first, before the horses ever came up the trails. For thousands of years before, the dog was this people's whole four-footed partnership, hauling the small travois, carrying packs, guarding the camps. The horse took the heavy work, but the dog kept the post of the door and holds it tonight. Every lodge has its several, big prick-eared dogs with thick winter coats and wolf somewhere not far back in the family. And by this hour they have completed the evening's official duties, which were supervising supper from a strategic distance and escorting the boys back from the herd, and are choosing their sleeping stations. The choosing is a small comedy of custom. The oldest dog of our lodge, a gray-muzzled veteran, has held the warm spot just inside the door hide for years, and takes it now with a circling and a sigh, a dark curl against the draft, exactly where a draft stopper does the most good. Two younger dogs curl outside in the lee of the woodpile, noses under tails, letting the snow blanket them, warm as loaves inside their coats. A half-grown pup, still learning the etiquette of where a pup may sleep, tries the door spot, is removed by seniority without either dog fully waking, and relocates, affronted, to the children's side of the lodge, where affronted pups have always found their consolation. All night they will keep, without effort, the only watch a sleeping camp needs. A dog's ear does not close, the herd shifting in the trees, the fox crossing the river ice, the neighbor stepping out at midnight for wood. Each will be noted, weighed by an old wise nose, and almost always filed under nothing, and the camp will sleep undisturbed inside that judgment. The one wrong sound in a winter's worth of nights would raise first one head, then a rumble, then the whole gray chorus, and every soul in the valley would be awake inside 3 heartbeats. It happens almost never. That is the point of it. The dogs are the walls this camp does not otherwise build, and the walls sleep lightly in the snow for the price of scraps and belonging. The old dog at the door has already begun to snore, a small steady engine, entirely at peace. In the robes, a child's foot finds the pup's warm back through the dark, and both settle deeper. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm. And around every lodge the oldest bargain lies curled in the snow with its ears still working, keeping its side of a deal 10,000 years old. Inside again, the lodge has begun its slow tilt towards sleep, and the beds are being made ready. So let us learn how this country builds a bed, because on a night this cold it is a serious art, seriously mastered. The floor of the lodge, around its rim, is already a mattress in waiting. Dry grass and river willow went down when the camp was pitched, then hides over that, so the sleeping ring sits sprung and dry above the frozen ground. A hand's depth of insulation between every sleeper and the deep cold underneath. Cold comes up out of winter ground all night, patient as water, and this floor answers it before it starts. Now the robes. From the rolled bundles along the wall come the buffalo robes, and there is simply nothing warmer that this world makes. A winter buffalo hide taken in the season when the coat is deepest, tanned soft on the flesh side, is a blanket, a mattress, and a climate all at once. The wool of it is deep as your fingers, dense past counting, and a person rolled in such a robe, fur inward, can sleep out a blizzard in the open, and has, many times in the history of this country, indoors by a banked fire, inside a lined lodge. A bed of 2 such robes is not a defense against winter. It is a defeat of it, total, furry, and silent. The beds go down each in its place. The grandmother's nearest the fire, her robes the softest, longest worked, with a trade blanket folded at the head, red, her one bright vanity. The children's beds along the north wall in a communal sprawl, robes overlapping, because children sleep best in heaps, as we have observed before in other centuries, and heaps sleep warmest. The parent's bed at the back, the son's robe laid ready by his backrest, for whenever the watch releases him, and at each adult place, the backrest itself, the tripod-hung mat of peeled willow rods, faced with hide, that is this land's easy chair, against which a person half reclines by the fire in the last talk of the evening before sliding the final distance down into the robes. The children are put down first, of course, over the usual doomed objections, moccasins off and set to warm, liners toward the fire. The youngest is asleep before the robe settles. The others burrow, whisper, are gentled with a word from the mother, quiet now, and subside to a low simmer, which every parent in every age knows is not yet sleep, only the opening of negotiations. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and along the walls of the lodge the beds lie ready and filling, deep brown islands of wool and warmth, each in its remembered place around the wheel of the fire. Before the evening settles fully into its crafts and stories, take stock, as the mother does with one slow look around, of the 2 humble commodities on which this whole warm night actually floats, because a winter camp runs on wood and water the way, a ship runs on wind and biscuit, and the day's last accounting of both is the true door the night closes behind itself. The woodpile stands by the door, inside arm's reach of the mother's place, built like everything here with an order that looks casual and is not. Dry cottonwood limbs broken to length, the splittable chunks split, kindling in its own small stack, and the big backlog for the night bank set on top like a keystone, chosen for slowness. Beyond the door, under a hide against the snow, the deeper reserve days of it, gathered through the mild spells by everyone with 2 arms and an afternoon. Wood is the women's economy mostly, gathered on foot and by horse drag from the deadfall up and down the bottoms, and a lodge's woodpile is read by every passer-by as frankly as its smoke. Full pile sound household. The pile tonight is deep, and the mother's glance at it going down with the dusk was the same glance the Ice Age mother gave her stacked bones, and the castle steward gave his cellar. The oldest bookkeeping there is, warmth in hand, counted enough, and the water stands in its skin bags and the blackened kettle, hauled up the path from the creek hole this afternoon, bucket by bucket. The day's last haul the coldest. All evening it has been doing quiet duty, broth and tea from the trade chest's small store, a warmed swallow for a child, and the kettle holds a low, warm reserve at the fire's edge for the deep hours, because someone waking parched at the bottom of the night should find water that does not bite. In the morning, the bags will go down the path again on the first shoulders, and the hole will be tapped open, and the creek will pay out the new day's ration under the ice, reliable as a well-treated neighbor. Wood in, water in. That is the arithmetic of a plains winter evening, done daily, done without ceremony, and done, which is the point. No lodge in this circle went to its robes tonight with the arithmetic unfinished. Here is the kind of fact that never makes it into anyone's stories, and it is the fact underneath everyone's stories, the dull, faithful, load-bearing floor of the whole singing, storytelling, deep-sleeping night. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and by the door the woodpile stands its plain guard beside the water bags, the 2 old servants of every fire we have ever kept, counted and full and ready for morning. Hung on the liner cords and folded by each sleeper's place is the other architecture of this world, the architecture people wear, and it is worth a chapter while the evening is still up and about, because on these plains in this season, clothing is shelter, and the people here are dressed the way the lodge is pitched, expertly in layers, with the wind understood. Begin at the feet, where winter begins. The moccasins of the season are high-topped and roomy, cut large on purpose to take their linings, grass or buffalo wool packed warm around the foot, and their soles are tough rawhide over which, in the deepest cold, a second overshoe of buffalo hide goes on hair inward. Dry grass swapped at the fire each evening, liners toasted on the rack, and a plainsman's feet stay dry warm through a day of snow that would defeat most boots your century sells. Up from there, leggings of soft hide against the legs' long exposure, and the winter's great garment over all, the buffalo robe itself, worn fur in, belted, a coat, a blanket, a windbreak, and a bed all in one, the single most complete piece of winter equipment this continent ever produced. A person wrapped and belted in a good winter robe, back to the wind, can outlast whether that grounds the ravens. The mittens hang in pairs by the door, hide shells with wool within, strung on cords through the sleeves in the manner mothers invented on every cold continent separately, because children are the same everywhere. The caps and hoods are fur, wolf and otter and rabbit, deep enough to shadow the face, and around the face opening, fur chosen because breath frost brushes from it easily. The same discovery, fur by fur, that the Ice Age seamstress made with her wolf ruffs so long ago, and no better answer found since, because there is none. And the good clothes, the other wardrobe, sleep folded in the painted cases, the quilled and beaded dresses and shirts, the fringe and the fine work, sweetgrass folded among them. Winter is their season too, the season of the dances and the visiting between camps, and they will come out of the cases when the drums do, bright as summer meadows against the snow. Clothing here has always spoken with two voices, the workaday voice that answers to the wind, and the fine voice that answers to the eye and the occasion. And both wardrobes are the women's authorship, cut, tanned, sewn, quilled, kept. For now, the workaday wear dries and warms on the rack over the banked side of the fire, moccasins upside down on their pegs, liners breathing steam, mittens paired, everything ready at the door for the first errand of the cold, bright morning. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and its people will walk out into tomorrow dressed in the summed cleverness of every winter their grandmothers ever solved. Scattered through this lodge, if you know where to look, is the far end of the world, and it is worth a slow inventory by firelight, because the 1,840s on these plains are a great age of exchange, and this household, like every household in the circle, is quietly threaded into a web of trade that runs from this fire ring to cities. Its members will never see, and does not need to. The kettle is the plainest citizen of that web, black iron, English forged, come up the Missouri by steamboat and keelboat and cart to a trading post, and thence by horse to here, and worth every robe it cost, because iron boils all day and never cracks. Beside it in the mother's kit, steel awls and needles that sew where bone once did, a steel knife with a worn handle, a copper pot, small and prized. In the daughter's work bag, the seed beads by the thousand, Venetian glass, actual Venice, actual Italy, blue and white and rose, having crossed 1.5 oceans a continent to be sewn tonight onto a moccasin toe in a snowbound valley by a girl who prices them precisely and uses them like a master. In the cases, folds of wool cloth, red and blue, traded by the yard, and the grandmother's red blanket, and a small store of coffee and sugar for feast mornings, and tobacco, the great sociable staple, for the pipes of visiting and talk. Payment for all of it walked out of this lodge on its own 4 feet, or road folded. Buffalo robes, tanned by the women, the soft heavy currency of the plains, and horses, and pemmican and dried meat by the sack to provision the trader's own hungry outposts. The arithmetic is conducted at the posts down the river, at the summer fairs, through kin who marry into the trade, and the people are shrewd at it, generations shrewd. They were traders long before the steamboats, trading quills and pipestone and corn and horses nation to nation down routes older than any post, and the new goods simply joined the old traffic, welcome where they were useful, ignored where they were not. It changes things, of course. Trade always has. Everywhere we have kept our nights, in Bruges wool and Nile grain, and the amber that walked south from cold seas to Roman necks. Iron pots retire clay and stone cookery. Beads race ahead of quills. Guns and cloth and coffee write themselves into the year's requirements. The elders remark on it, the way elders do, half wry, half warm, remembering alls of bone. But tonight none of that is a storm, only a weather. And the lodge holds the new things the way a strong household holds all its tools, on its own terms, for its own purposes. The far world sewn calmly into the near one. Glass from Venice glinting by firelight under a girl's sure fingers. Iron from Sheffield simmering the buffalo broth. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the wide world's goods sleep scattered through the lodge in their useful places. A long way from home, better employed than they ever were there. Partway through the evening, the door hide moves, and a voice says its soft word outside, and a visitor stoops in out of the night, and the lodge receives him the way lodges here receive, which is a small art worth watching, because the winter evening visit is one of the load-bearing pleasures of this world. He is an uncle by marriage from a lodge across the circle, robe frosted, cheeks burnished with cold, and he has come on the true winter errand, which is no errand at all. He brings a little tobacco, and the news of his household and himself. He is seated in the guest's place with unhurried ceremony. The fire is nudged, the kettle's warmth offered, and the pipe of ordinary sociability, the small pipe of an evening, not the other kind, goes around among the men with its quiet punctuating ease, and the talk begins where plains talk begins, with the weather, the horses, and the health of everyone's relations in that order. Then the news, and the news is the true cargo. A camp of relatives 2 days down the river is wintering fat. Their fall hunt was strong. A trader at the post has new blankets in, and prices them like a man who has never been embarrassed in his life. A marriage is quietly assembling itself between two families of the two camps, at the stage where everyone knows and everyone pretends not to, which is, all agree, the best stage of a marriage for the onlookers. An old man across the circle has been carving again, and there is a dance being talked of for the visiting moon when the camps meet, and the visitor's youngest has a new tooth, produced, this last, with the flat delivery of a man laying down a winning hand. Understand what is actually moving around this fire, under the murmur and the smoke. A winter camp keeps no newspapers and needs none. The visit is the newspaper, the post, the entertainment and the stitching of the circle, all at once. By the time the moon is high tonight, this lodge's news has walked to 2 other fires in trade, and the whole camp lies down knowing itself. Each household inside the others regard like robes in one press. Loneliness, that great winter animal of other worlds we have visited, finds no purchase on a circle that visits like this, nightly, faithfully, needing no reason beyond the reason. He rises at last with the visitor's easy timing, at the first restless stirring from the robes along the north wall, delivers his good night all around, gathers his robe at the door, and is gone into the squeaking cold, a broad back in the moonlight crossing the circle toward his own gold-seamed cone. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the evening's visit has been paid and received, and the circle is one thread tighter for it, as it will be again tomorrow night at some other fire, world without end. Rolled against the south liner, waiting for the bigger daylight, stands the winter's long project, and the grandmother lays her hand on it in passing tonight the way a shipwright touches a hull in the stocks, so we should know what it is, because it is the master craft of this whole world, and the quiet engine of everything the trade chapter counted. It is a buffalo hide, taken this fall, and it is halfway through its long becoming. A robe is not skinned off an animal, it is built out of one, and the building is the women's high labor, worked in the good light of winter days on a frame by the lodge, hours upon days. The flesh side is scraped clean, and even with an elk-antler scraper whose handle is worn to the shape of 3 generations of hands, it is thinned stroke by stroke to an even velvet, misted and worked with a dressing of brains and fat and liver, that the chemistry of your century would recognize and admire, wrung, stretched, and then softened, which is the longest verb in the language of hides, drawn back and forth across a rawhide line, worked over a post, pulled and pulled again, until the stiff board of it surrenders and becomes cloth, becomes drape, becomes the deep-piled supple warmth that wraps every sleeper in this lodge tonight. Count what rests on that labor, The robes of the beds, the winter coats, the lodge cover overhead, 12 hides sewn true, the parfleche cases, the moccasin soles, the ropes, the shield, the drum, and the trade itself, the whole outward economy, priced in robes because robes are the thing the wide world wants, and only this world's women can make. A skilled woman's hands are, without exaggeration, the mint of the plains, and the men know it. And the marriages of this country are contracted with that arithmetic fully in view. And a household like this one, with 3 generations of good hands in it, is wealthy twice over, once in what it keeps and once in what it can make next year. The grandmother worked this hide's morning shift herself, and her stroke is still the cleanest in the family, and she will tell you so, and she will be right. Under her hand tonight the half-made robe already promises its finished softness, the way dough promises bread. Some evening weeks from now it will come off the frame finished, and be judged by the only jury she respects, her own thumb and eye, and then it will be a bed, or a coat, or a bride's gift, or 8 yards of scarlet cloth and a copper kettle at the spring post. Whatever the household's year requires it to become. That is the power of the craft. A robe in the making is every possible thing at once. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm under exactly this work, by exactly these hands, and the next warmth is already half built and waiting by the wall for morning. One more wonder before the stories take the evening, and it is a quiet one fittingly, because it is the wonder of how this world talks when it does not talk, and you can see it in this very lodge, in passing, if you watch the hands. The plains are a sea of nations, down the rivers and across the grasslands live peoples of many tongues, tongues as different from one another as the languages of Europe, and they trade, ally, marry, and winter within reach of one another. And so the plains long ago grew the thing such a sea requires, a common language of the hands, sign talk, the lingua franca of the grasslands, a full and supple speech of gesture, in which a traveler from anywhere on these plains can converse with a stranger from 1,000 miles off, fluently for hours about horses, whether kin, trade, news, and jokes, without one spoken word in common. It is among the most complete sign trade languages the world has ever produced, and every adult in this lodge speaks it and learned it young, alongside their own tongue, as simply another room of speech, and like every language, it has long since overflowed its original errand. Watch it live tonight, in its domestic register, the mother across the fire from the eldest daughter, with the visitor mid-story, asks her with 3 small movements whether the kettle should be offered again, and receives, in one tilted hand, not yet, he is leaving soon, and neither thread of the spoken evening so much as wavers. The father and the uncle, deep in reminiscence, let their hands carry half the story's furniture from old habit. The ridge the river crossed, the horses many, the snow chest deep, so that the tale runs in 2 channels at once, and the sleepy boy watching from the robes receives it twice. Sign is the language of the hunt's silence, of courteous distance, of talk across a noisy dance ground, of secrets in company and company in silence, and it makes of every fireside a place where more is said than is ever heard. There is something restful in it that suits this hour of the night, and perhaps that is why we notice it now. Speech that makes no sound, whole sentences shaped and dissolved in firelight, gentle as the shadows on the liner, a civilization that solved the tower of its many tongues not with one empire's language, but with a handshake grown infinite, carried by everyone, imposed by no one, light as gesture, wide as the plains. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the last of the evening's talk goes on a while yet in both its channels, the murmuring one and the silent one, hand answering hand across the fire while the children drift at the edge of sleep. With the children down and the supper cleared, the lodge enters the mending hour, and if you have kept other winters with us in other lands, you will know this hour on sight, because every cold country on earth keeps it, and keeps it the same way. The light gathers, the hands start, and the talk starts with them. Winter is the making season here. The summer is horseback and hunt and movement. Life at a canter across the wide green world. But a winter camp stands still for whole moons at a time, and the long firelit evenings are the workshop in which the entire outfit of Plains life is made and remade. Ask any museum of your century where its finest Plains pieces were made, and the honest answer, could the pieces speak, would be in a winter lodge at night by firelight, while somebody told a story. Tonight's bench is modest, an ordinary night's work. The mother has the moccasins, the eternal moccasins. For a family walks its footwear to pieces faster than one woman can sew, and the pile by her knee is never empty. Winter moccasins here are built like the lodge itself, in layers, hide soles cut tough, uppers turned and stitched with sinew, liners of buffalo wool or rabbit within. She works her all through the layers, draws the sinew snug, and the stitch line grows down the seam, as even as a row of tracks in snow. The grandmother has the quiet piecework, softening a strip of hide between her hands, working fat into a stiff edge, the endless small maintenances of a world made of leather. The father at his backrest is not idle either, whatever he would tell you. Across his lap lies a coil of rawhide rope, and he works his way along it by feel, testing, splicing, rolling the mends on his thigh, his eyes half on the fire, his voice carrying its share of the talk. Rope is life out here. Rope catches horses and binds loads and pitches lodges, and a man's ropes are like a sailor's knots, private, particular, and constantly attended. And the talk over the work, the talk is the same talk as ever, as everywhere. Whether this snow is done or has a second mind, whether the creek ice will bear the big gray gelding at the water cut, or wants another cold night first, which lodge is likely to host the dancing when the two camps visit at the next full moon. Remember when, and remember when. The long soft braid of a family's past, replaited nightly, by hands too busy to be solemn about it. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and inside the lodge, stitch by stitch and splice by splice, the world is kept in good repair, which is, as we have said in other centuries, the true work of every winter everywhere. At the fire's south side, in the best of the light, the eldest daughter of the lodge is doing the fine work, and the fine work deserves a chapter of its own, because it is the high art of this world, and it is beautiful the way cathedral glass is beautiful, and it is done sitting cross-legged on a buffalo robe by a girl of 18. She is working a pair of moccasins, not the everyday kind, the other kind, the kind made to be seen. Across the toe of each she is laying a field of color, and the colors come from two worlds at once, which is the exact mark of her generation. From the old world, porcupine quills, plucked and sorted and dyed with plant-boiled reds and yellows, flattened smooth between the teeth and folded down in tight, bright rows. A skill as old as memory on these plains, exacting as jewelry work, learned at her grandmother's knee through years of patient, ruined first attempts. And from the new world, the trader's world, glass beads, tiny seed beads in blue and white, come up the river highways in kegs from factories an ocean away, and already, in her mother's lifetime, become a plains art of their own. Quill and bead lie side by side under her needle tonight, the ancient craft and the arriving one, in perfect working peace. Watch her hands and you will not see hurry anywhere in them. Zortvold stitch. Thread 5 beads, lay the row, couch it down. The design grows by increments too small to watch, the way frost grows on a window, and like the frosted is all geometry, stepped diamonds and long bars of color, bold from across the lodge, intricate from a hand's width away. She carries the pattern in her head, entire. It came to her the way patterns come to every art, partly inherited, partly hers alone. And the women who see the finished work will read both parts at a glance, the lineage and the signature. No one here would use the phrase, but this is also her banking. Fine work is wealth and standing. A woman known for her quill work is known the way a master smith or a master weaver is known in the other worlds we have visited, and honored accordingly. And there are societies of such women, with their own quiet rules, into which good hands are one day invited. The moccasins in her lap are for her father. He does not know yet. The whole lodge is keeping the secret with her, which, as you may remember from another fire 25,000 winters older than this one, is a thing families everywhere find entirely delicious. She holds a finished toe up to the firelight, turns it, finds one bead sitting proud and takes it out and does it again rightly. The firelight slides on the glass, and the smooth quills like light on water. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and in the best seat by the fire, row by row, color by color, something is being made that a museum of your century would put behind glass and stand people in line to see. All around the lodge's rim, tucked behind the beds and hung on the liner cords, is the family's luggage, and it is worth a slow look around at it, because this is a civilization that moves, and its furniture is one of the cleverest answers to that fact ever made. The parfleche cases are the backbone of it, great envelopes of stiff rawhide, folded like enormous letters and laced shut, made in matched pairs to hang balanced on either side of a pack horse. Inside them the household rides. Dried meat in this pair, back by the door where the mother reigns. Clothing in that one. The good quilled dresses and shirts folded away with sweetgrass. Tools, hide scraps, the little economy of sewing, each in its known case. Rawhide dries hard as board, shrugs off rain and snow and river crossings, weighs next to nothing, and lasts for decades. And a well-made parfleche is simply a better trunk than most trunks, invented by people who move house a dozen times a year and have strong opinions about luggage. And they are painted, everyone. That is the part that lifts the lodge's rim into a gallery. The women paint them before the hide dries, bold clean geometries in earth red and yellow, blue and green from the traders, black from charcoal, long triangles and hourglasses and framed diamonds, symmetrical as reflections, confident as flags. Each woman paints her own designs, and a practiced eye can walk into any lodge on the plains and read the cases like book plates. This one her mother's style, this one her own, this pair made for a daughter's new household. Nothing here is decorated at random. The patterns carry family, the way the winter count carries years. In the firelight, now the painted rose glows softly all around the room, red and gold above the sleeping children, cool blue and white behind the grandmother, and the effect honestly is of sleeping inside a jewel box, a small one, a warm one, packed for travel and at rest. Beside the cases hang the soft containers, the possible bags, fringed and beaded, holding the 1,000 small things every household holds, and the bow case and quiver on the men's side, and the shield in its cover, hung high, and the folded travois covers, all of it stowed with the ship-shaped neatness of a boat's cabin, which is what a lodge is. A round boat riding at anchor on a white sea, everything lashed and labeled and ready someday to sail. But not tonight, and not for many nights. Tonight the luggage only glows in its places, and holds the household steady around the fire. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and along the walls the painted cases stand their bright quiet watch, the family's whole movable world, folded, laced, and sleeping too. Now the father reaches behind his backrest and brings out a roll of soft hide, and the lodge settles a little at the sight of it, because this is the book of the people, and unrolling it is always a small occasion. Spread on his lap in the firelight, the hide shows a spiral of small painted figures, beginning at the center and coiling patiently outward, row after row, year after year. It is a winter count, and its keeping is a trust. One figure for each winter, one image chosen to be that year's name, and the keeper of the count is its historian, charged with painting the year and remembering the story of every figure before it, back to the center of the spiral, back beyond his own birth, into the years his grandfather kept. The figures are small and plain and potent. A year of many horses, a year the river flooded the bottoms, a year of the great meteor shower, when the stars fell all night like snow, and the winter counts of the plains, kept band by band across the whole wide grass, painted that same astonishing sky, so that historians of your century can lay them side by side and find the year exactly. A year named for a good trade, a year named for a deep snow, a year named for an old man beloved and gone. The count does not record everything. It records one thing per year, the rememberable thing, the peg on which all the year's other stories hang. And that turns out to be how memory actually works. And these hides are among the shrewdest memory machines ever made. The father walks the spiral backward now for the half-grown son beside him, quietly, figure by figure, the way the count is taught. This one, the winter you were born, deep snow. See the lodge drawn tall in the drift. This one, the summer of the great horse race. Your uncle still tells it larger every year. The boy leans in, follows his father's finger inward along the coil, into years he has only ever met as stories, and the years hold still under the paint and let themselves be met. In our other winters together, we have watched an old woman cut moon marks on a mammoth tusk, and a monk rule lines in a ledger, and a keeper of papyrus rolls take the evening census of a library. This hide is that same lamp, burning on a buffalo robe in the 1840s, a people keeping their time on purpose in the long dark, so that the years stay findable. He rolls the count, ties it, and puts it away gently behind the backrest. Another year's figure already half chosen in his mind, waiting for spring to be painted. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the years lie coiled in their soft hide by the wall, each one named, each one kept, spiraling quietly back toward the center of remembering. The children are in their robes, which is not at all the same thing as the children being asleep, and so, as happens in every lodging our species has ever kept, there now rises from the north wall the hour of questions. They come up out of the robe heap one at a time, in the clear, unstoppable voice of the middle child, aimed at the fire and whoever will answer. Why the smoke follows the flaps, where the buffalo go inside the winter, and whether they have lodges of their own down in some warm valley with fires. Why the snow squeaks underfoot only when it is coldest, whether the horses are cold, and whether the dogs are cold, and whether the fish under the creek ice are cold, working down the whole roster of the animals one by one with the thoroughness of a small accountant of comfort, and where the wind lives, and why it cannot come in. They are, you will notice, the same questions, The same questions asked beside the mammoth bone fire so long before this night. The same ones that will be asked in brick bedrooms so long after it. The eternal bedtime syllabus. Unanswerable then, unanswerable now, at least at this hour, by anyone honest. The answers come the way they always come, from around the fire, each grown up in their manner. The father answers with a straight face and a bent truth. The wind lives in the badlands where nobody offers its supper, which is why it complains at every door. A snort from the grandmother's side. The mother answers with the practical. The snow squeaks because the cold makes it dry. Now pull the robe up over that ear. And the grandmother answers the buffalo question, with the beginning of an answer that is really the doorway of a story. And the whole robe heap goes still at the sound of it, because they know that door and what comes through it. We will let the story itself wait for the next chapter, because it deserves one. But mark, before the questions end, the last question, the one that comes small and already half asleep, the way the last question always comes, whether everyone is going to be here in the morning, and the answer, given without a flicker, in the voice mothers keep for exactly this. Everyone, right here, go to sleep now, and the robe heap believes her, because she has never once been wrong about it. And the questions stop coming up, and the breathing evens out along the north wall, one small breather at a time. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the children are nearly through the gate of sleep, with one story yet to carry them the last few steps. Winter on these plains is when the stories are told. That is not a habit. It is close to a law, and a lovely one. The long tales, the old tales, belong to the season of long nights, and the people keep them there on purpose, the way good things are kept for their right time. Summer is for doing, winter is for telling, and so the storytellers of this world work in the same season as the quill workers and the moccasin menders, by the same firelight, and a winter lodge at night is their proper theater, robe warm, emberlit, snowbound, perfect. Tonight the grandmother has the floor from her place by the fire, her blanket about her shoulders, her mending set down. She does not raise her voice. Plain storytelling is a close art, meant for the circle of one fire, and her instrument is quiet and sure, a voice worn smooth in the telling places, with a pause in it that can hold a whole lodge still. She tells for the children first, while they finish falling. A small story, an animal story, the kind with a rhythm in it and a place for small voices to answer. And one by one, the small voices answer more slowly, and then answer no more. And she sails the story gently on over their sleeping heads without a hitch in it, because the story was always aimed past them, at everyone. Then for the grown and half-grown, she tells one of the winter tales. We will not try to tell it for her. It is hers and her people's, and it is long, with its own right shape and its own owners. And a passing visitor does best to say only what a visitor can see, which is this. It is a story with animals in it who talk sense and people in it who sometimes do not. It has a foolishness in the middle that makes even the father laugh low, the same laugh at the same bend where he has laughed at it for 40 years. It has patience in it and weather, and a kindness done that comes back around at the end, the way the camp circle comes around, and when it lands soft and sure, like a horse settling, and the lodge sits quiet a moment inside the landing. What a visitor can also see is what the telling is doing. Beneath its pleasure, the lodge's whole, youngest generation is lying in the story's path, and the story is passing into them, tone and turn and ethic, painlessly in the dark, the way stories have always done their teaching. 60 winters from tonight, a woman not yet born will tell this tale by another fire, and will pause where the grandmother pauses tonight, and will not know where she learned the pause, and will be wrong, because she is learning it right now, aged 5, asleep against her sister's back. The grandmother finishes and takes up the mending again by way of punctuation, and says something dry that makes the mother laugh. And the evening folds on, the smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the winter's proper work, the work of telling, has been done for the night and done well. The talk after the story turns, as it always turns sooner or later in this lodge, to the buffalo, and the father takes the subject the way the grandmother took the tale, easily, by right of long acquaintance, and gives the fire and the half-grown boy the year of the herds, the whole great wheel of it, told slow. He tells the spring, when the winter bands of the buffalo, scattered small through the sheltered breaks like the people themselves, begin to drift and gather, and the plains turn over from white to brown, to a green that moves in waves, and the calves come, red gold and absurd on their new legs, and the whole horizon some mornings is buffalo, walking north into the wind of the new year. He tells the summer, the enormous summer, when the herds run beyond any counting, and the earth itself carries their sound, a sea sound, a weather of hooves below the horizon, and the people move out onto the wide grass and set the camp circle whole, hundreds of lodges in one great ring, and the summer hunts feed the year to come, and everything the winter camp now eats and wears and sleeps in came off that summer ground. He tells the autumn, the making season, when the meat is dried on racks that redden whole hillsides, and the hides come in for tanning, and the camps grow rich and busy as harvest farms, and the first blue northers come down, and the people and the buffalo both read the same sky and begin, in their separate nations, to move toward the sheltered country. And he tells the winter, which is now tonight, the herds broken into small patient bands, down in the river breaks and the cedar canyons, shaggy to the eyes, plowing the snow aside with those great heads, swung side to side, to reach the cured grass beneath, enduring the way this country endures by knowing how, and the people in their sheltered valley doing the same, with the summer's plenty stacked in painted cases, living off the year's great arrangement between the herds and themselves. You have heard this chapter before, told of reindeer and wild horses by a fire of bones. It is the same chapter. It is the oldest chapter there is, the year told as the animals live it, and a boy learning it by firelight so deep it becomes his own pulse. The herds move, the people move with them. The winter is for resting between. On these plains that old chapter is still being lived tonight, in its fullness, horseback now, and the boy who is learning it will know the year of the buffalo, the way rivers know their valleys. The story finds its rest where it always does, the herd standing quiet in the winter dark, heads down, enduring, and the teller lets it stand there, and reaches for the last stick of the evening's wood. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and out in the breaks, miles off, the great shaggy nation the story spoke of is bedded in the lee of the cedars, doing exactly what the story said, which is how you know a story is true. Somewhere in the after-story quiet, the singing starts, and it starts the way singing starts in every winter lodging we have ever kept together, which is to say, nobody starts it. It is simply there at some point, low under the fire sounds, the mother's voice on an old rocking song, the kind that is half hum and needs no excuse. The songs of this world run deep and take many shapes, and most of them are not for tonight. There are songs for the drum, songs for the dancing, songs for the societies and the ceremonies, strong songs, high-carrying songs made to ride a big drum out over a whole summer camp. All that stays folded away tonight like the good quilled clothing. What comes out at the fire's edge on an ordinary winter night is the small end of the songbook, the household end. Lullabies, slow personal songs a man half sings at his backrest, remembering something he does not say. Teasing songs an aunt deploys in 2 lines to demolish a nephew, to general low laughter. Songs with words, songs beyond words, riding on the vocables, the way a river rides past the need for banks. The grandmother keeps the time of the mother's song with her fingertips against her knee. No drum wanted, the pulse just present, like a heartbeat through a robe. The father comes in under the melody an octave down, agreeing with it rather than performing it. And for a verse or two, the lodge has that braided sound that families make who have sung in one small room together all their lives. Voices leaning on each other with all their weight and no effort. The sound impossible to rehearse and impossible, apparently, to lose. The eldest daughter sings a round of it with her needle still moving, glass beads clicking their tiny counter-rhythm in the bowl at her knee. Outside, one of the dogs by the woodpile adjusts itself in size. The song is not going anywhere, and neither is anyone. It circles like the smoke, rises like the smoke, thins like the smoke, and somewhere in its 3rd or 4th going round it has become mostly hum, and then mostly breath, and then it has landed, the way the songs of this hour land everywhere, not ended but set down. The singer's gone quiet around a fire that keeps the pulse a while longer on its own. The mother looks at the robe heap of children, confirms the total stillness of it, and permits herself the small, satisfied settling of a person whose evening has gone entirely to plan. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the last of the low song is up in the crown of the lodge with the smoke, taking its own time about leaving, as the last of a song always should. Step outside once more briefly, with the mother's leave, while she banks the evening toward its close, and stand in the middle of the sleeping camp, because the camp itself, seen whole at night, is a sight worth the cold, and it will teach you one more thing about this world before the deep hours come. The cold is fierce and clean and utterly still. The snow squeaks its coldest squeak underfoot. Overhead the stars are past all counting, the great river of them running clear across the sky, and under that silver ceiling the lodges stand in their loose circle among the black cottonwood trunks, a dozen glowing cones, each seamed with gold, each breathing its straight thread of smoke into the windless dark. Firelight moves faintly inside the nearest, shadow and amber swimming on the hide like light inside a lantern, and from it softly comes the murmur of a household lying down, and from the next lodge over, the tail end of a song much like the one we just left, and from a third, low laughter, someone's last story landing well. That is the lesson, standing right here in the snow. This camp is one thing, not a cluster of separate households wintering near each other, but a single organism with a dozen warm chambers, joined by paths in the snow, by kinship in every direction, by shares of meat and obligations of generosity that run lodge to lodge like the paths do, by the herd mingled under the bluff, by the watch that one family's son is standing tonight for everyone's horses. If one lodge ran short this winter, its shortage would be the circle's business by morning, and quietly ended by nightfall. That is not softness. It is engineering as real as the tilt of the cones, the way this people winters, tested and true, the strong economy of the circle. The dogs have registered us and filed us under nothing. A horse down in the trees blows softly. Somewhere beyond the bluffs, a coyote makes its remarks to the stars and is answered, further off. And neither the dogs nor the horses nor any sleeper in any lodge finds in it anything worth waking for, because it is only the plains talking to themselves at night, the oldest small talk on the continent, and everyone here was raised inside it. One thread of smoke for every household, 12 threads standing straight up into the stars, and the great cold holding the whole valley in its 2 hands, without the least harm. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm. From the middle of the circle, you can see the entire meaning of the refrain at one glance. Carry the sight in with you. Let's go back inside, before the cold finishes counting our buttons. Since the night is clear and the year is deep, this is a good hour to tell how this world names its time. Because the people of the plains do not number their months, they describe them, and the describing is one of the quiet poems of the grasslands, worth unrolling slowly, like the count. The year here is a necklace of moons, and every moon has its name, and the names are observations, each one a small season pinned to the sky. There is a moon of the returning geese, and a moon when the chokecherries ripen, and a moon of the ripe plums, and a moon when the calves grow their coats. The names vary band to band and nation to nation across the wide grass, the way dialects vary, because the names were read off the land itself, and the land says slightly different things in different valleys. But everywhere the principle is the same, and everywhere it is lovely. Time in this world is not an empty ruler laid against life. Time is what the world is doing. The winter moons, the ones this camp is living through, carry the deep names. The moon of the falling leaves brought the bands into the sheltered valleys. Then the moon of the first snows, when the drying racks came down and the lodges grew their liners. Now the camp sits in the deep of the cold, in the moon the grandmother names with a certain relish, the moon of the popping trees, for the sound the cottonwoods make on the bitterest nights, when the frost drives deep into the trunks and they crack aloud in the dark like distant careful drums, a sound the children listen for from the robes, half thrill, half comfort all winter. And beyond it waits the hard moon, the moon of the great visiting, when the 2 camps will feast and dance. And beyond that the moon of the sore eyes, named honestly for the snow glare of late winter brightening towards spring. And then the moon when the ice goes, and the geese again, and the necklace comes around. A child of this lodge learns the year this way, moon by moon, name by name, and the learning does something worth noticing. It fastens the child to the world's own calendar, so that time is never abstract, never a stranger, never a mere count. To ask what moon it is to ask what the earth is doing, and the answer is always news of home. The trees are popping, the wolves are loud, the eyes grow sore, the ice grows old, the geese are on the wind. The year does not pass this people by. It walks with them, named and known, like a member of the family. And tonight, then, by the only calendar that matters here, the position is this. Deep in the moon of the popping trees, past its full, in a warm lodge, in a fed camp, with the visiting moon next on the string, and nothing owed to any of it until morning. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm and out in the grove, right on schedule. A cottonwood cracks its frost drum crack into the silence, and the moon of the popping trees keeps its name. One more thing is stored in this lodge tonight, invisible on any shelf, and it may be the sweetest of the stores, so let us count it too before the deepest hour. The camp is keeping, the way one keeps a covered dish, the happy certainty of the dance to come. At the hard moon's filling, 10 nights out, 12 nights, the relatives from down the river will come up the valley, a whole camp on the move in its winter best, horses blanketed, children polished, and the 2 circles will become for a few days one big one, and there will be feasting and giveaways and courting and gossip. And at the center of it, in the biggest lodge, with the fires built high, there will be the dancing. The drums will come out of their covers. The good clothes will come out of the painted cases. The quilled shirts, the elk-tooth dresses, the daughter's new moccasins on her father's feet at last, secret delivered, and the singers will pack shoulder to shoulder around the drum and lift the high songs into the smoke hole, while the dancers turn the fire like a slow wheel of color. Everyone in this sleeping lodge holds a share of that certainty tonight, tucked away like the clothes themselves. The daughter's share is stitched in glass on the finished moccasin at her side, and in the not secret that a certain young man of the downriver camp is a strong dancer and knows she will be there. The son's share is a horse race half arranged with a cousin, the course already argued about in advance by both parties, which is half the pleasure of any race. The grandmother's share is the meeting of the old women, her true society, the assembly of everyone who remembers what she remembers, an evening of talk worth 10 of anyone else's. The father holds the pleasure of the host, mentally walking the giveaway, this robe to that uncle, that colt to the new son-in-law's family, wealth doing what wealth is for here, which is leaving in the right directions, and the children hold the plain blazing fact of cousins, days of cousins, sledding and mischief, and midnight whispering in a lodge packed 3 families deep, the purest form of riches known to anyone under 10. Anticipation of this kind is a food, and winter is when this people lays it in, deliberately, the way it lays in meat. The year is planned so that its warmest gathering sits in its coldest moon. The dark end of the calendar is given the dance, the visiting, the feasts on purpose, so that the deep winter is not a thing to be gotten through, but a thing that has something in it, shining just ahead. Every world we have wintered in learned some version of this. The feast set like a lamp in the darkest month. Few ever place the lamp better. So the camp sleeps toward it tonight, 10 nights out, and the dance is already warming the lodges from the future, the way tomorrow's fire is already warming this one from inside the banked coals. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and somewhere down the frozen river, the other camp is asleep around the same bright certainty, and the 2 ends of the visiting moon are dreaming their way toward each other night by night, like relatives on one road. Below the camp, at the foot of the trodden path, the creek lies under its winter lid, and though no one will visit it again until morning, it has earned its chapter, because the creek is why the camp is here, and because a frozen creek at night is one of winter's finest small theaters, performing now to an empty house. It is locked deep, white and gray, a modest ribbon of stillness winding through the bottoms to meet the river at the bend. At the near bank, the water hole is kept open, cut with an axe and kept cut, a low ring of built-up ice around it like the curb of a well. All the camp's water walks up the path from that dark eye, bucket by bucket, morning and evening. The horses are watered there at the wide place where the boys chop the trough. By dawn it will wear a skin of new ice thin as a fingernail, and the first woman down the path will open it with one practiced tap, as the first woman down the path has done every morning of this winter. Stand on the bank a moment and hear it live. The creek is not dead under its lid. No winter water is. It still runs underneath, thin and dark and patient, and the ice speaks over it. Long, low booms that roll away down the bottoms, like something enormous turning over in its sleep. Bright sudden cracks that go skittering shore to shore. And if you are patient, the deep singing note, the eerie, lovely whale call of settling ice that the children of this camp love and imitate and dare each other about. Exactly, precisely, as the children of a bone house on another frozen river loved and imitated theirs. So long before this night that the number would only get between the 2 sets of children, who would understand each other perfectly. The creek made this winter sight, with its water and its trees and its sheltering cut of valley, and the people read all that at a glance in the autumn, the way their families have red, wintering ground past remembering. And in the spring, this same modest creek will run brown and loud and important with melt, and the camp will watch it with respect and move the lodges up the bench. And the whole white world it now holds still will be traded for a green one inside a fortnight. But that is spring's business. Tonight the creek only holds the valley's stillness like a spine, and booms softly to itself, and sings its one strange note to the stars, and keeps the dark water moving under the lid, patient beyond all patience, on its long errand to the sea. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and under the ice at the foot of the path, the water goes on quietly all night, the valley's oldest inhabitant and still its kindest. Deep in the evening the moon comes up over the bluffs, a night or two past full, the color of old bone, and the world outside the lodges is remade by it. And someone should see the remaking, so let it be us, and the sun out with the horses, who watches it rise from the edge of the grove with a robe around his ears. Moonlight on deep snow, we have said it before and it is no less true on this continent, is the brightest night there is. The plains take the moon and multiply it. The snowfields go silver blue from bluff to bluff, every wind-carved ridge drawing its thin line of shadow, every stand of grass above the snow turned to a stroke of dark calligraphy on an endless pale page. The lodges cast their long cone shadows across the camp clearing. The smoke threads turn to rising silver. You could walk by this light for miles, read tracks by it, and the night-traveling animals do exactly that. The fox stitching his neat line across the bottoms, the owl working the meadow edge on wings the moon can barely find. The boy at the grove's edge watches the light come down the far bluff face like a slow tide, and he is not thinking anything you could put in a ledger, and he is also standing his family's watch to the minute. And those two facts have shared young herdsmen's chests on night duty in every land and every century that has kept herds at all. The moon crosses a Mongolian horse camp and a Lakota one in the same night after all. It has seen this exact scene, boy, herd, snow, patience, more times than there are words in any language, and it makes tonight's version silver anyway, unbored, thorough, the way it makes them all. Inside the lodge, the moon comes in at the smoke hole, a pale slanting column through the last thin smoke, and lays a slow oval of silver on the robes that will travel the floor all night like the hand of a very patient clock. The mother, banking the fire, crosses the moon column twice, and does not remark it, and has known its road across her floor all her married life, and could tell the hour by where it touches, and will, once later, waking briefly, reading the silver on the lodge lining, well past middle night, all's well, gone again. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and over the whole sleeping country the moon does its great unpaid work, lighting the snow for the foxes and the herd boys, crossing the smoke holes of the people one by one, all night, without once being thanked and without once minding. Before she lets the night have her, the grandmother steps out, as she does when the sky is clean, to look at the winter stars, and the young ones in the lodge no longer even smile at the habit, because half of what they know about the sky they learned standing beside it. The sky she steps under would stop your heart. There is no flame on the whole horizon but the camp's own, and the stars come down to the snow line in every direction, layered deep, the bright ones burning steady in the cold, and the faint ones dusted between past counting, and the great soft river of light runs over the valley from rim to rim. The night is so still, she can hear the creek ice boom below the camp, and a horse shift its feet in the grove, and nothing else in the world. She reads the sky for use first, as sky readers always have. The winter stars are a clock and a calendar to her people, as they have been to every people we have wintered with. She marks where the great winter constellation stands over the bluffs, how far it has swung since the snows came, what that says about the depth of the season and the distance to spring. The star knowledge of these plains is old and particular and held in stories, which is where sky knowledge keeps best. Each bright figure fastened to a telling, so that to learn the winter sky is to learn a winter's worth of firesides, and no child who learns it that way ever unlearns it. But use is not why she stands out in the cold longer than the reading takes, and she would tell you so. She stands because it is the great sight, and because at her age she is on comfortable speaking terms with it. Small, warm, wrapped, briefly awake under an enormous ancient sky looking up. You know this feeling by now. We have felt it through the smoke hole of a mammoth bone house, and from the deck of a night ship, and on the roof walk of a lighthouse not yet built. It is the same feeling. It is always the same feeling, and it is one of the oldest good ones our kind is issued, and it has never needed a single improvement. A star falls, brief and bright, dying over the river bluffs. She watches its whole small journey without surprise, the way you watch a leaf land and says nothing about it to anyone, and goes back in through the door hide, bringing a breath of the enormous night in with her. Folded in her blanket, cold and clean, the smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and overhead the winter stars burn on over the valley, keeping every appointment, needing no keeper, the far fires of the one camp everyone lives in. Somewhere past the middle of the night, a wind comes up, as a wind usually does out here, and walks through the valley, and the camp and the wind have their old conversation, the one everybody sleeps through and everybody trusts. You hear it come the way you hear a tide, arriving from a long way off across the snowfields, a low building hush out of the northwest, and then it is in the cottonwood crowns overhead, a dry cold rushing, and then it is leaning on the lodges, and the lodges answer it the way they were shaped to. The cones take the wind and part it and send it on, no flat face anywhere for a gust to grip, and the taut covers give one soft drumskin thrum and stand. The smoke flaps, set at dusk for exactly this quarter, keep the draw sweet without a hand touching them. The banked snow seals the skirts. Inside, between cover and liner, the moving cold is caught and calmed and fed harmlessly upward, and the sleepers feel nothing at their backs but buffalo wool. Only the sounds come in, and the sounds, as ever, are on the sleepers' side. The rush in the bare crowns rises and falls like slow surf. The lodge cover thrums its soft drumhead note at the strongest gusts. The poles, 17 of them bound at the crown, creak once, all together, a sound like a great instrument being lifted, and take the load and say no more. A dog at the woodpile repositions by a quarter turn, and lets the snow smoke over his back. Down in the grove, the herd swings tail to wind in its sleep, and the boy on watch pulls his robe higher and backs deeper into the lee of a big cottonwood, unalarmed, checking his horses by moonlight, the wind combing long silver banners of snow off the bluff tops above him. In the lodge, nobody properly wakes. The mother surfaces to the thrum for 3 seconds, reads it, all's well. This is what the flaps were set for and is gone again. The children's heap does not stir a hair. The wind is only the plains breathing, and every sleeper here has slept inside that breathing since before they could walk, and their bodies file the sound where such sounds belong, with the creek's boom and the coyote's remarks, under the oldest heading there is, home at night, working properly. By the smallest hours the wind has said its piece and walked on south, taking its hush away over the snowfields, leaving the valley swept and the stars rinsed brighter and the cones of the camp standing exactly as it found them, tilted, patient, unimpressed. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm. The wind knocked tonight, and the lodges answered for everyone, and no one else had to so much as turn over. At the changing of the watch, past the deep middle of the night, the eldest son comes in at last, and his homecoming is one of the small ceremonies of every winter night, performed this time for no audience but the fire and us. He is relieved out in the grove by a younger man from a neighboring lodge, robe wrapped, half asleep on his feet and pretending otherwise, and the two of them stand a minute in the moon shadow of the cottonwoods, passing the herd between them in a few murmured words, which horses are restless, where the drifted snow lies soft over bad footing, that the dun mare has taken against the far end of the grove for reasons she declines to share. Then the son walks up the path alone, snow squeaking, breath shining, the whole sleeping camp before him with its silver smoke threads, and he is colder than he will admit and happier than he knows. He comes in through the door hide, with a wash of cold air that makes the fire duck and recover, and the old dog at the door lifts her gray muzzle half an inch in salute and returns it to her tail. He moves through the dark lodge with the sure feet of someone who could walk it blindfolded, because he is, in effect, doing exactly that, and his supper is there, by the banked fire under its bowl, kept warm at the edge of the coals, because his mother has never once in his 16 years let a watch come into a cold supper, and does not intend to begin tonight, asleep or not. He eats sitting cross-legged by the embers, quietly, wolfishly, a young man's third supper, with the firelight low on his wind-burned face. Around him the lodge breathes, his grandmother's slow breath, his father's deeper one, the puppy pile rhythm of the children, the small sounds of a household deep under the robes, and his ears, still tuned wide from the watch, take the whole inventory without trying and find it good. There is a particular contentment, issued only to the person who comes in last and cold, to a warm sleeping house that they themselves have been guarding, and he has it now entire with broth. He wipes the bowl, sets it down softly, banks his robe-warmed backrest aside, and slides into his own bed at last, between his brother and the wall, into buffalo wool that his body will take 10 breaths to make into an oven. The lodge does not wake to receive him. It only adjusts, a sleeping thing making room for a returned piece of itself. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the watch has changed hands out in the moonlit grove, and the son of the house is home, fed, thawing, and 3 breaths from sleep, with the whole warm weight of the night ahead of him, and nothing owed to it until morning. While the lodge sleeps on toward the deepest hour, the valley outside is quietly full of its other citizens, the small nations of the winter night, going about their administrations in the moonlight, and since we are awake anyway, keeping the fire company, let us watch them a while through the eye of the smoke hole and the ear of the door, because nothing on the plains is ever quite empty, least of all the dark. The fox is out. He crossed the creek ice an hour ago on his neat private line, trotting his surveyor's trot, and is working the meadow edge below the camp now, head cocked to the snow, listening downward. Under that snow, in runs and chambers the winter roofs over, the mice and voles keep their own warm cities, granaries of grass seed, highways under the white, an entire civilization 1 story down, and the fox stands above it like a patient toll collector, waiting for footsteps. When he springs, it is straight up, all 4 feet, an absurd and beautiful leap ending nose deep in the drift, and whether he rises with his toll or without it, He shakes the snow off with the same businesslike flourish and trots on. He has crossed this camp's wind every night of the winter and files its smells: smoke, dog, horse, meat track under ordinary, a fixture of his rounds as he is a fixture of theirs. The owl works the same meadow from above, on wings the night cannot hear, a great gray shape drifting the fenceless field like a thought, and between fox below and owl above. The mouse cities keep their heads down and their granaries close, and the old arithmetic of the meadow proceeds, as it proceeded before any lodge stood here and will after, patient, balanced, mostly mercy by sheer volume of quiet hours, punctuated rarely, briefly, by the snow's small dramas, which the sleeping camp is spared entirely. Down in the grove, a porcupine whose quills may yet end up dyed and folded on some moccasin toe, gnaws his slow supper of bark in a cottonwood crotch, unhurried as only the unhuntable can be. The chickadees sleep in their thickets, puffed to spheres, hearts drumming their tiny furnaces through the cold, and far off from the bluffs, the coyotes post their notices to the moon, remark and answer and chorus, the plains' oldest radio, and every listening ear in the valley, dog, horse, fox, boy on watch, notes the distance and the tone, nothing urgent, and returns to its own business. This is the night the camp sleeps inside, not a void with a fire in it, but a working country, layered and inhabited, whose 100 small sovereignties surround the circle of lodges the way the sea surrounds a riding ship, going about their own immemorial affairs, asking nothing of the sleepers, granting them by their very calm the deepest of all lullabies, which is the sound of a world at its ordinary work. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and all around it in the moonlight, the small nations keep their small watches, and the great shared night holds every nation in it, furred and feathered and firelit alike, with the same enormous, even hand. And now the lodge is fully asleep, every soul of it, and we may take the night watchman's privilege we have taken in other centuries, and walk the round of it once, quietly, counting the sleepers, because someone should see a house at this hour, and tonight the someone is us. Count them by the ember light, the children along the north wall, a single warm dune of buffalo wool with 4 heads at various compass points, breathing in the braided overlapping way of children who have slept in one heap all their lives. The eldest son, newest to sleep, still radiating faint cold from the watch, gone down so fast and so far that his robe still holds the shape of his sliding in. The eldest daughter, her beadwork bagged and hung, one hand curled loosely as if around a needle even now. The grandmother by the fire, small and neat under her red trade blanket, sleeping the light, economical sleep of the old, surfacing and submerging on her own tides. The father flat and formal at the back of the lodge, senator even in sleep, and the mother by the door at the household's helm, last down, first up, sleeping the way she wakes, competently, with the whole lodge inside her attention even now, the way a harbor holds its boats. The lodge breathes with them, stands still at the center, by the banked fire, and you can hear the whole warm instrument at its night work. 9 sleepers' breath, braided, the embers ticking under their ash blanket, exhaling the last thin thread of smoke, which rises and finds the crown and slides out under the set flaps into the stars. The liner walls stirring almost nothing in the spent wind's afterthoughts, a pole creaking its one discreet creak of the hour, the cover answering with a half-thrum too soft to name. Under it all, faint through the floor robes, something that might be the creek's boom carried in the ground, the valley talking in its sleep to the lodge breathing its answer. The smells of deep night are their own chapter of comfort, banked cottonwood coals, warm hide and buffalo wool, a ghost of supper, a thread of sweetgrass from the cases and riding over it, whenever the door hide breathes, one clean knife edge of the enormous cold outside, instantly tamed, there only to remind the sleepers' animal hearts of exactly what they are exempt from. Nothing here is anxious. You have heard me say it in a bone house on the Ice Age step, and it is just as true tonight. And it will need saying for as long as your century needs these hours. By every ledger your world keeps, this is a hard life at a hard season on a hard land. And here it is, deeply, competently, communally asleep. Because the work was done, the stores are full, the herd is watched, the circle holds. Peace is not the absence of winter. It is a lodge in good order in the middle of one. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the lodge rises and falls on its own slow breath like a moored boat, going nowhere all night, exactly as intended. The fire, meanwhile, keeps its own version of the night, down in the ring of stones at the center of everything, and since every human eye in the lodge is closed, its version is the true record, and deserves the telling. Banked under its gray coat of ash, the coal bed lives its secret life. Cottonwood makes long, even, companionable coals, and the mother built the night bank the way her mother taught her. The big backlog buried at the heart, the coals raked close, the ash drawn over all of it like a robe over a sleeper. From above, a quiet gray mound, apparently finished. Underneath, a slow orange republic, working through the backlog hour by hour, holding its heat against the morning like a kept promise. When a draft from the door hide thins the ash at one edge, a seam of deep orange opens, considers the sleeping lodge for a moment and closes again, an eye of the house, unalarmed. The ember bed ticks as it works, tiny settlements and collapses, ash sifting into ash. And that ticking is the lodge's night clock, telling no hour but telling the night itself. Constantly, I am here, I am here. The mother's sleeping ear is tuned to that station, and no other. The pop of a coal spat onto stone would have her up on an elbow inside a breath, reading the floor. It does not come. Cottonwood is a courteous fuel, and the fire ring is deep, and her banking is 40 winters good. And so the night's one small alarm is a knot of driftwood that whistles a thin note at the coldest hour, like a sleepy bird, and gets, from somewhere in the robes, a half-conscious human answer, a hush, absurd and lovely, a mother shushing the fire, and the fire in fact hushing. And this fire, too, is old. Not tonight's coals, but the household fire, the line of it. It was carried to this valley in the autumn as banked coals in a horn, from the summer camp's fire, which was lit from the springs, which came down from winters and valleys before that. A thread of continuous flame running back through the lodge's whole history, joining, if you follow it far enough up the years, the same great river of kept fire we have warmed at all season, in every camp and cottage and keeper's tower our nights together have visited. Nobody here thinks of it that way. They only never let it go out, which is how the thread is kept, one careful banking at a time, without anyone once calling it eternal. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and down under the gray ash, the oldest servant of the household works the night through without wages and without complaint, holding tomorrow's breakfast fire safe inside tonight's, which is all the eternity anyone actually needs. There is an hour in every winter night that has no neighbors, and it comes to the valley now, the still hour, the bottom of the vault, when the night stands at its own center and the whole country holds one long, unhurried breath. Outside, the cold reaches its deepest mark of the winter's ordinary register. The stars burn, needle-hard over the bluffs. The moon is far down the west, laying long pale lanes between the cottonwood shadows. Nothing moves on the snowfields from rim to rim. Not fox, not owl, not wind. The creek has said its last boom, and lies quiet under the lid. In the grove the herd stands in its warm clumps, heads low, hips slanted, deep in horse sleep. And the young watcher under the big cottonwood has gone as still as the trunk he leans on, robe wrapped, moon silvered, awake the way a lake in winter is awake, entirely and without a single ripple. The camp at this hour is 12 gray cones in the moonlight, each with its thin standing thread, and the threads are the only motion in the valley, rising absolutely straight in the stillness, joining somewhere far up in the dark above the bluffs. The 12 households of the circle briefly one thing in the sky as they are one thing on the ground. Inside our lodge, the hour is at its warmest depth, not the lively warmth of the evening fire but the settled, total, load-bearing warmth of banked coals and 9 sleepers and 40 buffalo robes. A warmth that has stopped being an event and become a country. The ember tick has slowed to its widest spacing. The moon oval has crossed the floor and begun its slow climb up the western lining, silver on the painted cases. Every sleeper is at the bottom of their night's arc now, furthest from both shores of waking, carried in the deep middle of the current, and their breathing has found that single settled communal rhythm that a household only reaches at this 1 hour. The sound, if you could bottle it, of safety itself. If you stood here now, at the center by the coals, you would understand the thing this hour exists to teach. The same thing it taught beside other fires, in other winters, long before and long after this one. This stillness is not empty. It is full. It is the fullest hour of the whole turning day, the harvest hour, the one that all the hunting and tanning and hauling and mending and watching were for. The sleeping is the wealth. The stillness is the granary, and it is guarded lightly, perfectly, by an ember bed, an old dog, a boy under a cottonwood, and a circle of kin, which has proven on these plains to be guard enough. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and the deepest hour passes over the valley like a great slow wing, and does no harm at all, and moves on west across the sleeping country toward all the other valleys waiting their turn. And in the deep hours the sleepers dream, all through the circle of lodges, and since no one can stop us wondering what they dream, let us wonder gently, chamber by chamber, as a way of saying good night to each of them. The children dream close to the surface, as children do everywhere we have ever listened to them sleep. In the robe heap along the north wall, a foot twitches, a hand closes on wool. The middle child, the evening's chief interrogator, is perhaps getting answers somewhere, following the buffalo down into their warm winter valley that the grandmother's story built, finding it furnished exactly as suspected, with lodges and fires and shaggy hosts of great courtesy. The smallest dreams, in all likelihood, of Wasna. The son dreams of horses, of course. His legs have been on horseback since morning, and sleep simply keeps riding, the dun mare swimming under him through deep grass gone gold, no snow anywhere, the whole herd flowing around them downhill like water let loose, and somewhere in the dream he is counting them without counting, herdsmen even here, and the count keeps coming out right, which is why he does not stir. The daughter dreams in pattern, as makers do, rows of color assembling themselves, diamonds stepping down a field of white, the good dream of work going well, and her curled hand stitches one slow stitch against the robe near dawn. The father dreams the winter count, or something shaped like it, years turning under his hands, figures walking off the hide and standing in the snow to be recognized. And the grandmother, in her light old woman's sleep, travels farthest of anyone, decades wide, camps and rivers and faces folded together without seam or sorrow, a whole long life turning slowly in her like the star wheel over the smoke hole. And if you asked her in the morning, she would say only that she slept well, which is what the old say of those enormous voyages in every language, by every fire. The dogs dream in the snow, feet paddling briefly, chasing or greeting, hard to say. The horses dream standing. Whatever horses dream, deep grass and no wind, one hopes and have earned it. Say the lodge itself dreams. If a made thing can, dreaming of the summer circle, hundreds of cones on green earth, the great gathering it is one small chamber of. Say the whole valley dreams, creek and cottonwoods and drifted bluffs, one long communal winter dream, patient and kind, with morning at the end of it, because on nights like this it is easy to believe, and there is no one awake to argue. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm, and behind all the closed eyes of the circle, human and horse and dog together, a dozen private worlds turn quietly, safe inside the one shared dark. And at last, at the far end of the great vault of the night, the hour before dawn comes to the valley, the way it has come to every world we have kept a night in, quietly from the east, without any hurry at all. It comes first as a loosening. The eastern sky over the bluffs, black all night below the stars, turns some color that is not yet a color, and the stars there grow modest and step back. The moon is long down. The great winter constellation the grandmother Reed has wheeled far over and lies low in the west, closing its shift. The cold makes its final deepening, the traditional last word, and then eases by the first unmeasurable degree, like a grip beginning to forget itself. The valley takes the news in its own unhurried order. A horse in the grove shakes its whole hide in a rattle of frost and stands differently, facing east. The herd begins its first slow shuffling redistribution, and the new watcher stamps his feet and watches the line of the bluffs sharpen against the gray. A raven crosses high over the camp, first remark of the morning, and is answered from the river trees. The chickadees, who have spent the night as puffed gray balls in the thickets, begin their small, bright accounting of the dawn. The old dog at the door hide stretches, fore and aft, with the great groaning satisfaction of the first stretch of the day, and resumes her post, facing out now toward the paling east, in the manner of doors everywhere. And in the lodge the mother wakes. No one wakes her. The night's own rhythm delivers her to the surface exactly here, at the hinge of the day, as it has all her adult life. She lies still one moment, reading the house with her ears all well. Then she rises quietly in the cold amber dark, opens the ash with the forked stick, and finds the banked backlog's legacy waiting, a deep bed of live orange, the fire's whole answer to the 14-hour dark. She feeds it its breakfast, twig by twig, then wood, and the first small flames of the new day climb up through the gloom, and the lodge lining warms from gray toward gold, and the kettle goes to its hook, and the day, very gently, begins to exist. The others still sleep, and she lets them, everyone. This half hour is hers, as it was the fire keepers in the bone house, as it has been the early risers in every household in every winter of the world. She sits back on her heels by the young flames, hands to the warmth, listening to the chickadees and the fire, watching the smoke hole go from star black to deep blue above the crossed poles. Outside, the east is truly kindling now. The snowfields are finding their first faint rose. The long night, the whole magnificent 14-hour vault of it, the stories and the low songs, the moon and the wind, the watch in the grove and the embers' patient republic, is folding itself away westward, complete. Having done what nights are for, it rested its people, everyone, and carried them warm and dreaming from one day's edge to the other, and set them down safe in sight of morning. Soon the camp will stir. Smoke will thicken from 12 crowns. The path to the water hole will squeak under the first buckets, and the boys will run down to the horses, and the bright, hard blue day of the plains winter will get underway, with its wood and water and mending, its visiting and its laughter, all of it in the circle's good time. But not yet. For a little while longer there is only this: the fire fed and rising, the mother at her hearth, the family breathing slow in the last soft dark, the east coming up gold over the bluffs beneath the morning star. The smoke goes up, and the camp sleeps warm. It was true at dusk, and it was true at midnight, and it is true now at the edge of morning, and it will be true tomorrow night, and all the winter's nights, in the circle of lodges by the frozen creek, on the wide white plains in the 1840s, in the good keeping of the people who lived it. Let it be true for you as well. Whatever the night holds where you are, may your smoke go up, and may your camp sleep warm, and may you rest as they rest deeply together, certain of morning. Asleep now. This was worlds before morning. Good night.